Jack Smith and Hillary Clinton are not the only ones right now who are soiling their underwear. I'm going to connect the dots for you. Make sure you watch to the end. Folks, the treasonous, traitorous rat bastards are panicking. And I'm going to share with you 3 breaking news stories and connect the dots for you so you know that this is not just wishful thinking, folks. The indictments are coming. But first, one thing I've wanted for a long time in a president is military experience, being former military, but not being a warmonger. That's one of the many reasons why I am fairly bullish and optimistic, cautiously so, of course, about our current Vice President, J.D. Vance, becoming the next president, being president number 48. By the way, happy Veterans Day. I want to thank all of you who have served in our armed forces. Thank you very much. Shout out to my father, retired corpsman. Now, here is J.D. Vance, our vice president, yesterday. And we can't call him a former Marine. As a person who grew up in and around Camp Pendleton in northern San Diego County, I am very much aware of the adage, once a Marine, always a Marine. And this happened yesterday, showing J.D. Vance's quick thinking, him being affable. Yesterday, Monday, Vice President J.D. Vance was with his wife, Usha, and they visited veterans at Walter Reed Hospital. My father used to serve there years ago before they changed the name to Walter Reed. And he did so to honor veterans and military personnel receiving care ahead of Veterans Day. He spoke with patients and providers, learned about their injuries, their treatment plans, and sharing challenge coins. And he told one patient, "We'll be reading for you. It's seriously amazing. I really admire your spirit. Every time I'm bitching about my job, I'll remember this guy." Impressed with the hard work of the patients at various stages of recovery, he joked, "This is all a conspiracy to shame me for not going to the gym more. You have all these guys who have rough injuries and they're all busting their ass. No excuses anymore." Close quote. As they watched combat wounded U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant Carlos Evans perform physical therapy exercises, Vance took a moment for some light-hearted teasing. A therapist tossed Sergeant Evans a ball, and then I want you to watch what happened next and what Vice President J.D. Vance said.
Demonstration.
All right. Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh.
Really put him on the spot.
Really put me on the spot.
Sorry.
If I had dropped it, man, what a dipshit I would look like here. Yeah. Somebody call the Secret Service.
Yeah.
This guy.
After that lighthearted moment, Vice President J.D. Vance then had a serious conversation with the sergeant about his injuries and his recovery plan. That was yesterday on Monday. Today, Veterans Day, Vice President J.D. Vance joined our president and VA Secretary Doug Collins. Remember Doug Collins? Man, he was one of my favorite legislators when he was in the House. They were, of course, at Arlington, where they laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier, and where President Trump said, quote, "This morning on these hallowed grounds where generations of American heroes rest in eternal glory, we gather to fulfill the sacred duty of every free man and woman. On Veterans Day, we honor those who have worn the uniform, who have borne the battle, who have stood to watch, and whose ranks have formed the mighty wall of flesh and blood, bravery and devotion that has defended our freedom for 250 years.
To every veteran, we love our veterans. We say the words too often left unsaid. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much. And we want to also say thank you for carrying America's fate on your strong, very broad and proud shoulders. Each of you has earned the respect and the gratitude of our entire nation. We love you, we salute you, and we will never forget what you have done to keep America safe, sovereign, and free. Thank you very much.
I really want to put emphasis on what President Trump said there. The reason why we voted for him. To keep America safe. You know, we had open borders and all kinds of wars and rumors of wars all around us during the previous administration. Sovereign and free. Now, we can definitely thank our military for getting us this far. Once again, Doug Collins, our United States Secretary of Veterans Affairs, had tweeted out or put on Instagram earlier today. Today we honor the best of America, our brave men and women, veterans. God bless America. Now, since we're talking about Doug Collins, a former representative out of Georgia, now serving in another capacity, why don't we move on to someone else who just had some pretty interesting things to reveal about the deep state yesterday on Maria Bartiromo's show. And I am talking about Devin Nunes, who as a congressman, along with our current FBI director, Kash Patel, got the goods on the deep state and what they were trying to do to take down President Trump. Now, Devin Nunes is now the CEO of President Trump's media company, but he also serves as a chair of President Trump's Intelligence Advisory Board since President Trump came back into office the second time. And we know that the deep state was trying to get President Trump all the way back from 2016, and they really went at it under the Obama 3.0 presidency, masquerading itself as a Biden-Kamala Harris administration. And this is what Devin Nunes said happened to Truth Social during Jack Smith's political weaponization of his investigation. This is, once again, absolute proof that the government was weaponized under Biden and that the whole Jack Smith thing was a fraud.
Attorney General Pam Bondi revealing that Biden's Justice Department seized President Trump's official cell phone from his first term, and they issued a subpoena for the president's personal call logs as well as part of their Arctic frost probe. Devin, it is great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Can you talk to us a bit about what happened to Truth Social and Trump Media and Technology Group during this Arctic frost investigation?
Yeah, Maria, thanks for having me. And one would think that Trump Media would not have been caught up into Arctic frost at all, largely because, Maria, we just became a public company in 2024, and we were nowhere around in 2021 on January 6th. So why would Trump Media be subpoenaed at that time during this investigation? It doesn't make any sense.
That's right, folks. We have Jack Smith issuing subpoenas, looking into Truth Social in his investigation of all the supposed shenanigans and illegal activities of President Trump surrounding January 6th and everything else. A company that even Wikipedia lets everyone know that President Trump started Truth Social a year after the January 6th Capitol event, which they still call an attack, because President Trump had been banned from all the major social media networks. So he's being investigated for a crime that predates his supposed crime, alleged crime, that predates by about a year the actual crime that's being investigated. Isn't that interesting? Or maybe, truthfully, it's just another example of what we already know, that the government was weaponized against President Trump, and therefore we the people, because he's our representative. And it has been for oh so long. AP reporting last year, when Truth Social became a publicly traded company, that President Donald Trump had launched his social media platform in early 2022 when he was banned from major sites such as Facebook, whatever you want to call them, and the platform formerly known as Twitter following the January 6th attack. Crazy. Just another example, if we were in court, another exhibit that the government and the deep state weaponized themselves entirely against we the people and our representative, our duly elected and beloved President, Donald John Trump. By the way, if you haven't done so yet, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and don't forget to check out my other show, the BCP Podcast. I've got an episode coming up later today, and you can find that at bcpextras.com and therealbcp.com. Now, I want to report on the fact that the deep state is getting very nervous right now. And one of the reasons why they are getting nervous is because of what is in the bill that is going to be voted on by the House tomorrow, passed by the House tomorrow, and then signed by President Trump. The deep state is nervous because of what they snuck in this bill.
On this vote, the ayes are 60, the nays are 40. The bill as amended is passed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table.
So yes, this bill would end the government shutdown, but even more interesting is this, and big shout out to Zachary Steiber over at the Epoch Times for highlighting this great little thing that's in there. Package to reopen government would let senators sue over phone searches. The package states that the federal government waives sovereign immunity, a principle that often protects federal officers against litigation. And of course, they rightfully put a picture of Jack Smith as part of their article. Jack Smith probably shifting in his panties right now. Some senators could receive millions of dollars over former special counsel Jack Smith's accessing of their phone records under a provision included in the package to reopen the government. The package states in part that any senator whose Senate data or the Senate data of whose Senate office has been acquired, subpoenaed, searched, accessed, or disclosed in violation of this section may bring a civil action against the United States if the violation was committed by an officer, employee, or agent of the United States or of any federal department or agency. I mean, once again, folks, this is a huge example of pork. And I'm not saying in this particular instance, I'm opposed to them sneaking this bad boy in there. Senators who prevail in their claims shall receive $500,000 per violation, or if greater, the amount of actual damages as specified in the legislation. They would also be entitled to attorney's fees and litigation costs. The FBI, of course, obtained data from the phones of at least 8 senators, according to a document made public last month. Those senators, as we covered here, were Marsha Blackburn, Lindsey Graham, Cynthia Loomis. Smith utilized the data in his investigation into the 2020 presidential election, as stated in his final report. Kash Patel said that the monitoring was baseless, while Attorney General Bondi described the investigation as an unconstitutional, undemocratic abuse of power. And I just shared with you how they were even looking into Truth Social, which wasn't even around during the whole 2020 election question to begin with. The new package, the Epoch Times reports, states that the federal government waives sovereign immunity, a principle that often protects federal officers against litigation when it comes to Senate data. It does contain exceptions for letting senators sue the government, including if, at the time the data was acquired, the senator was a target of a criminal investigation. So obviously, if they had subpoenas because they were part of a legitimate criminal investigation, that's one thing, but not this dragnet, this widespread fishing for a crime that we know that Jack Smith and his cohorts were guilty of. The portion of the package allows for civil action to be taken for 5 years after a senator receives notice of a violation. Now, they were all notified last month, so they pretty much have 5 years to go after Jack Smith. The document detailing which senators' data was obtained by the FBI was dated 2023, while senators said they only learned of the developments this year. Jack Smith, I don't think, is sitting pretty right now. I don't think he is. But that's not the only deep state in a panic news story I have for you. Check this one out.
Breaking news out of the Southern District of Florida. MSNBC has just learned that 2 prosecutors there who were asked to take part into a vast conspiracy investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election have now resigned. A source familiar with the internal concerns among career prosecutors tells MSNBC that U.S. Attorney Jason Redding Quinones called a rare division-wide meeting this afternoon over the resignations.
The deep state appears to be in a panic because it is coming to light that, in fact, there is a Trump-Russia conspiracy investigation going on within the U.S. attorney's offices, within the Department of Justice. And there will be a day of reckoning. There will be retribution. There will be justice. And there are several signs of them. I'm going to point them out for you using this reporting from MSNBC on this. But let me just give you a heads up. One has to do with it's not the same usual suspects. There is actual leadership within this U.S. Attorney's offices that are willing to do this investigation, and they're weeding out the people that aren't. And they're not relying on career people and the status quo and the business as usual way of doing things to conduct this investigation and to go after the deep state. Very, very important for us as a sign that things are happening, and this is good news. But of course, this is bad news for the deep state, and MSNBC represents that deep state. So check this out.
Right. We must start with the basis here, that there is this vast conspiracy that Trump administration officials have alleged that former intelligence and law enforcement officials during the Obama and Biden administrations undertook to undermine the candidacies and presidencies of Donald Trump. That is the baseline for this here.
Seems like that MSNBC guy couldn't even actually deny that that's true. I mean, we know about the Russia collusion hoax that was started by Perkins Coie and Hillary Clinton and all her people to try to get President Trump, then candidate Trump, with the stain of her actual sins of being cozy with Russia. I mean, giving up 20% of our uranium to them. And then once President Trump actually won the elections because they weren't able to, thieve it for themselves, they weaponized under Obama everything they could to try to derail President Trump from the word go, from the very first day he was in office. It actually started before that. And we know the usual suspects. Let's not forget it was in that meeting. It was Obama. It was Brennan. Then over the CIA, it was Clapper over the DNI. Then you had, of course, people at the FBI on this, not just James Comey, but people like Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, and all of these people, along with Jack Smith, are starting to get nervous.
Late on Friday, we reported that at least 30 subpoenas were sent out by the Southern District of Florida U.S. Attorney to people like John Brennan and former FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. And now, along with our White House colleague Laura Barone-Lopez and myself, we are reporting here that there are 2 junior U.S. attorneys who have since resigned from the Southern District of Florida after being asked to be a part of this investigation. I am told that one of the individuals who resigned, quote, felt like there was something they could not take part in because it would violate their ethical responsibilities.
As I play this, see if you come to the same conclusion that I am coming to. And this is what I told you I will be pointing out to you, that these are positive signs that things are happening when it comes to the deep state. And that's why they are in panic mode. These are junior people. These are not the same seasoned, same veteran, same career, deep state operatives and or foot soldiers, yes men, trying to advance their career that are fine with being part of the swamp when they should be looking for justice in these different, in this particular U.S. Attorney office. But we're seeing that this is happening in several places. Okay, that's the first thing. You're going to see that they're complaining, oh my gosh, usually they don't get these junior people involved. Well, they need to get the junior people involved because the senior people are part of the swamp. We don't want them. And I think that's what's happening here, except maybe in these 2 cases, these guys may already be compromised, may have already been, I'm not saying that, I'm not alleging that, I'm saying perhaps it is possible that these people were already compromised, or they're just straight up afraid of getting involved in this because, they don't want to be JFK'd. They don't want to, be a victim of looking into the deep state. Maybe they're just afraid for themselves. Who knows? But this is what's causing consternation in the deep state. All these signs that this is the real deal when it comes to a final real investigation going after the conspiracy of the deep state and the entrenched Marxists and Democrat operatives going after President Trump before, during, and after his 45th administration.
It is worth noting here that these were two junior U.S. assistant attorneys. I am told by somebody familiar that it would not be ordinary to have these junior U.S. attorneys, assistant U.S. attorneys, be called up for such major investigations like this.
Of course not. We've stated the obvious already. You want new blood that isn't already tainted by the status quo. And that is also why the old guard, the people that were just middle yes men, and the old guard of Biden and even those that served during President Trump's first term that didn't have the stomach to go after the deep state, that's why they're not the one issuing the subpoenas. They're not the one signing off on these investigations. President Trump is allowing, first of all, he's put people in leadership positions, via Pam Bondi and the whole system of how the U.S. attorneys work. Put people in who are going to put people in who are actually going to go after the deep state. And when the middlemen don't do it, the new leadership is absolutely doing it. Once again, causing panic among the deep state usual suspects.
We have also learned that the individual that signed off on these subpoenas was the number 3 at the Southern District of Florida U.S. Attorney's Office. Now, this is abnormal. This is the executive assistant U.S. attorney, because usually somebody in leadership doesn't sign off on indictments or subpoenas. Think back to when it was odd that Lindsay Halligan signed off on the indictments in the Northern District of Virginia, for instance, because she couldn't find any career prosecutors in the office to move forward with the indictments themselves.
And as I covered here on this show, that has caused panic as well. And we have both the Comey and the Letitia James lawyers trying to question Halligan's placement, her position, in an effort to get out of these indictments. Yes, they needed new blood that is strong and willing enough to go after them. And we're not just seeing that in the case of Halligan, we're also seeing it in this particular office in Virginia.
And that is what we are seeing down there in the Southern District of Florida, that the number 3 in the office is the one who signed off on at least some of these subpoenas. Now, that is what led this afternoon, we are told, to the U.S. Attorney of the Southern District of Florida, the Trump-appointed Jason Reddy-Quinones, to call a unit-wide meeting of 2 to 3 dozen prosecutors in the Major Crimes Division here this afternoon to address the concerns stemming from not only the investigation, but also the resignation of those 2 attorneys who were asked to be a part of the investigation.
Wow, looks like President Trump has got the right people finally within the justice apparatus. And did I beat the dead horse yet that the deep state is panicking right now? What does this all mean? What did President Trump say? Here's a reminder.
We still don't know the full scope of this investigation, but of course President Trump has explicitly called for the jailing of Barack Obama, to Clapper, to a series, a litany of other individuals, and we know that there is an investigation that is ongoing. Subpoenas have been sent out, and at least 2 assistant U.S. attorneys have so far resigned down in that district where this investigation is being conducted.
So things are happening. They're getting junior people involved. Some of them are dirty or don't want to do their job. They're afraid of the consequences, which can be deadly. So we're getting... that is allowing us to get a peek into what's going on inside. And they're not letting middle people who don't want to bring the prosecutions, who have been there a long time, they're just bypassing them, and leadership are doing these subpoenas, these indictments, leading these investigations. Good stuff happening, folks, but that's not all. That's not all. Let's look at what Kash Patel, FBI director, and Pam Bondi, our U.S. Attorney General, just gave the Senate Judiciary Committee. Clinton corruption files. That's what they gave them. John Solomon over at the great Just the News organization. Bondi Patel unleashed new evidence about former First Family Foundation. You know me, I love my self-alliteration. I love triple alliteration. But I got to tell you, they warmed my heart here with this quadruple alliteration. Former First Family Foundation. Of course, we're talking about the ever crooked, ever corrupt Clinton Foundation. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel have produced to Congress a new cache of documents showing how Bill and Hillary Clinton, their foundation, collected donations from foreign and domestic interests seeking influence, raising fresh concerns that such evidence was kept from federal prosecutors who tried to investigate pay-to-play allegations against the First Family decades ago. Folks, the people were on this. They were on this back before President Trump came into office during Obama's time. We know this because our friend, or I should say my friend, Patrick Byrne, has talked about this. He's talked about how he was part of a huge $18 million attempt to show how corrupt Hillary Clinton was and is, which would have landed her in jail. And I'm going to show you here the video of Patrick Byrne talking in Dallas, Texas during the Reawaken America tour about this, a sting operation in which he set up Hillary Clinton to receive an $18 million bribe. But it was kiboshed by the Department of Justice and the machine during Obama, because it was assumed she would be president. And guess who was going to be president after her? If you haven't seen this, this is great. This is our friend Patrick Byrne talking about how he was recruited by the feds to participate in this operation, why it was killed, figuratively, why he was told to forget all about it, and what the plan was.
And they explained all that to me, and they said, you're going to work for us setting up Hillary Clinton. And I'm not going to go into the details. There was an $18 million bribe that I was to arrange, and I arranged it, and I was to get the person paying I was to get the bag man into a room with her 7 weeks later on January 14th, 2016, Hillary Clinton in a hotel room, met with the bag man. I can even go into how it was done, but it won't go into the...
Now, I'll go back to that clip in just a moment here, but I played that part for you as we're looking at what was just released to the Senate Judiciary Committee. So you can see that Patrick Byrne, over 10 years ago, was part of a sting operation with Hillary Clinton worth $18 million because it was suspected, it was alleged, we know it to be true, but let's just use that language, that Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation was in fact receiving foreign money as she was Secretary of State to curry, in an attempt to curry favor for foreign interests. And that is what has been sent to the Senate Judiciary Committee as being reported today by Just the News. Officials told Just the News that the documents were transmitted to the Senate Judiciary Committee in recent days and detail numerous instances of foreigners and even a U.S. defense contractor seeking to curry favor with the Clintons through donations to their family charity, including when Hillary Clinton served as Secretary of State. The official said some of the evidence was flagged by the whistleblowers who claimed such evidence was kept from a corruption investigation that was being conducted in 2015 by the Little Rock, Arkansas U.S. Attorney's Office before it was shut down by Obama's administration's Justice Department. Now, why did that happen, folks? Why was it shut down? Before we go into the rest of what we know about what's been transmitted by Bondi and Patel to the Senate Judiciary Committee, let's go back to Patrick Byrne.
It's not in her schedule. I do not know. I was not there. Didn't know if she took the bribe or not. 3 days later, I met with the agents. They told me, you need to forget this whole thing ever happened. You forget every moment this ever happened. And we mean it, Patrick. It's like serious stuff. And I said, what's going on? There was actually 4 federal people of 3 different flavors in this. And I'm going to give you the words of one of them, but the gestalt of this was confirmed by the other 3. And what was eventually explained to me was this. Patrick, you need to understand that at this point, President Obama has his people across the federal bureaucracy, but especially the Department of Justice. Hillary Clinton is going to be president for 8 years, and nothing's going to change that. But while she's president, think of there as being a Bunsen burner in the DOJ, and the information about the bribes, and there's actually two, that you know about are going to be sitting on that Bunsen burner. The hand on the Bunsen burner is going to be one of President Obama's people. If Hillary's a good girl and she defends Obamacare, that flame stays low. If she's a bad girl and thinks for itself, it gets turned up. And that way, President Obama is going to manage Hillary Clinton for the 8 years she's president. Then she's going to step down and Michelle's going to run. And Patrick, that's the plan. This plan, I later was told, was called Operation Snow Globe. But instead of a penguin, it's Hillary Clinton.
Patrick Byrne was involved in Operation Snow Globe back in 2014, 2015. And just as we're seeing here in this article today, there was an effort to obstruct legitimate inquiries into the foundation by blocking real investigation by line-level FBI agents and DOJ field prosecutors and keeping them from following the money. That is what we are being confirmed, because we know this with this most recent information that we're getting, that the FBI and the Department of Justice, well, remember the FBI is under the Department of Justice, is transmitting over to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Wow. Now, I've been calling this the Clinton corruption files because that's what it's called. Officials say they have been gathering evidence for weeks and have dubbed the documents the Clinton corruption files. Bondi and Patel hope to make the documents public by as soon as the end of this week, once they work through some issues protecting whistleblower identities. Officials said they also expect new evidence to be released this week in the Arctic Frost investigation conducted by Jack Smith, including new contacts between the special prosecutor who pursued Donald Trump and top officials like former FBI Director Christopher Wray, and new details on how that probe sought to pierce the privacy of members of Congress by gathering their phone records. You see what I'm doing here, folks? I'm bringing us full circle. We've talked about what was just put in the bill that's going to be passed tomorrow, that's going to reopen government. They're going to blow this thing open. I'm telling you, Jack Smith is chiseling in his shorts, in his underwear, in his panties. They're going after him. They're going after Christopher Wray. They're going after Hillary Clinton. Folks, it looks like, being cautiously optimistic, I'm not going to say that Hillary Clinton is going to go to jail. I think that Comey and Brennan are, and probably Clapper. I don't think Obama and Hillary Clinton are necessarily going to jail, but I do think that it looks like we are going to see their indictments. And Jack Smith as well. Just the News had also reported earlier that the FBI had 3 separate investigations into possible pay-to-play allegations against the Clinton Foundation, but were all closed after Obama Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates ordered agents to shut it down. Officials said the new documents will detail how lower-level FBI agents and prosecutors kept information from reaching decision-makers in the various probes of the Clinton Foundation. And folks, that's why we're seeing what we are seeing when it comes to what is going on with these U.S. attorneys going after Brennan, or we're going to see them going after Brennan, after Comey, after Clinton, after all of these deep state people, after Jack Smith. This whole panicking by the deep state because junior people are being asked to join these investigations because they're not part of the old guard, and those who are afraid or are sneakily part of the old guard are resigning. And how we are now getting new people that, yes, are willing to bring the indictments and the subpoenas, and that is why leadership is doing it, and everything is not business as usual, or so it appears, among these U.S. attorneys and the Department of Justice. And folks, this is all good sign, multiple signs that good things are happening. So there you have it, the Clinton corruption files, and we're about to get more evidence publicly about all of this. And that is why I maintain, cautiously optimistic, that this time around, these treasonous, traitorous rat bastards are indeed going to go to jail. Some of them are going to go to jail. A lot of them are going to be indicted. The names, once again, I want to remind you that you want to be aware of are Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, Andy McCabe, Christopher Wray, and a host of others. Are we going to see Clinton? Are we going to see Obama? Indicted, perhaps, in jail? I'm a little dubious on that one. But what are your thoughts? Put it down below. And let me just show you one last thing real quick from the same thing from Patrick Byrne at the Reawaken America tour. Who really is behind all this? Who was the mastermind behind this? Who is a person that's been panicking a whole lot lately? And I've been showing you his panic, his public panic here on this show. Well, here's what Patrick Byrne thinks.
And Brennan, and by the way, even though I just mentioned Obama, I have some good reason to believe he's not himself. I think John Brennan's behind all of this, frankly. And I think that Brennan blackmails Obama. I think Obama is actually Brennan's guy. But anyway.
What are your thoughts? Put it down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and check out my other show at BCP Extras or therealbcp.com. Links to everything are down below. I will be back. Until the next one, ciao, goodbye. Receive a big hug. God bless.